A very warm hello to all the students. It may be good morning, it may be good afternoon, it may be good evening at your places when you are watching this video. Thanks to COVID, this is what teaching has come to. It's purely online, and we definitely hope that by sitting at the comfort at your homes, you will be able to enjoy these lectures that we are flashing online. Though we don't much like this situation, we would have loved all the lovely students to be in front of us in the classroom, sitting on these benches which are empty right now. So literally, I would have to teach an empty classroom. But that's how things are going to be. Maybe it's the new normal. So wishing both of us the best of lucks. This is the session which is Pointers in C, Unit 5 in Problem Solving with C, the CCP as it is better known as. In the Unit 5, we have topics like structures, we have pointers, we have file handling. I'm taking the topic pointers, which may have been touched upon a little earlier in the classes pre the COVID break. But today's class will be a short and concise class to explain pointers in the best possible manner so that you understand the main crux of what a pointer is, how it is used, why, where, and the hows of using a pointer. So let's begin our session to understand what is this concept called as a pointer in C. And we have to maybe take an example right away of how this concept came into the C language and where does it find its utility. Let's take an example of this being your house. Imagine this is your house, and this is maybe a AC or a fridge repair shop. And let's assume that it's around 5 kilometers. You have a fridge in your house which is not in a working condition, and you want this fridge to be repaired. So let us look at some scenarios. Normally what we would do if this is the case, in my house there is a fridge which is not working and I need to get it repaired. So one, I would send the fridge to the shop. I would actually take maybe a truck, keep the fridge in that, and this goes, the shop repairs it and sends it back. So you actually call the shop, there's a vehicle which comes, you put the fridge on that, send the vehicle to the shop, somebody in the shop, the service technician repairs it and sends it back, and all this happens The second scenario is a little convenient one. Can you guess what could be the scenario? In case we want to avoid the trouble of sending the fridge and the person repairing it and sending it back. I think this is going to take a lot of time perhaps, it's going to take a lot of labor. Yes? So what could be the second scenario which could maybe cut down the service turnaround time or would be less complicated? What do you say? Yes. Why don't you just call the technician, give him the address. This second solution seems to be quite convenient. Call the technician, give him your house address, don't send the fridge. The technician would find you at your address, he would come to your home, do the necessary repairs, provided he brings all the kit along with him. And then after the repairs are done, the job is over, pay him off and he goes off. So out of the scenario 1 and 2, obviously I think everybody is going to vote for the second scenario to be good. Did you understand this? So that's how simple the concept is. The same concept is applied by using pointers in C. How is that? Yes, we need to understand that. If you can remember this example, I would give you an example in programmatic terms, like in programming, how this could be similar to a situation where we would have to do something not quite as similar, but yes, very much similar to this. Let's imagine this is the main function and this is a function to add numbers of an array. And inside the main function, you have an array. So please remember, like in the example that we just now finished discussion on, the fridge and the service technician. This house is a main function. You are already aware what's a main function. Inside the main function, what we have done is maybe we have taken 10 or 20 or n kind of numbers from the user. We have stored it inside one array. And now we have written another function. This is a user-defined function which would add the numbers of an array and give me the result. And I have that requirement. So now what would I do? Would I send the entire array to the function? Very much like putting the fridge on a truck, sending it, the function extracting all the numbers from the array, totaling all the numbers, getting the result, sending the result back to the main function. This is very much like the first strategy, which is a failed strategy in the first example. What is the second strategy? The main function could call this support function and pass, I repeat, it can pass the address of this array to the function so that the function can access the array at that particular address, do the required operation, give the result to the main function, and finish its job. So the strategy of pass by reference or passing the address very much works in our favor. What do you think happened? What did we benefit? The first thing we benefited from this mechanism by passing the address is it is less complicated. The meaning of complicated here is don't have to pass the entire array. The entire data structure need not travel. Imagine you have 1,000 numbers and you have a huge array. The entire 1,000 number array having to be copied by the function into some other area in the memory. It will take time, so you're trying to save time. By time we mean from the main function, if you're going to pass the array itself, then the support function or the user-defined function has to make arrangements in the memory somewhere else to copy all these elements into that new memory area. So that copying of elements from this basic array into a new area in the memory, that's going to eat up a lot of time. So that is the big and major advantage. Less time. As the C programs grow bigger, and typically we are talking about lakhs and lakhs of lines of code, maybe some huge complicated programs. There, we are also going to have not very simple variables. We are going to have some big complicated data structures which are having millions of records. And these data structures need to travel from the main function to the support function for some or the other operation. And then the result has to travel back to the main function. So this to and fro of data from the main function to the support function and then back, the copying of all the elements from the huge data structure from the main function into some memory area here is going to take a lot of time and effort. So what the pointer does is it follows the principle of pass by reference or passing the address. So now imagine if the main function is going to pass the address of this huge array which contains 1 million records. It does not actually pass the entire array or the data structure. It passes just the address. And then the function, the user-defined function, is able to access the data structure with this address, do the operation, hand over the result to the main function, and then finish its job. Definitely, it becomes less complicated. It becomes less time consuming and generally more efficient. And when we can achieve the target of less complication, faster execution speeds, more efficient code, we have just achieved a very, very good programming standard. And when it comes to huge programs, which are using tons and thousands of variables, huge data structures, millions of records, this technique proves to be very useful. Normally in our day-to-day study in engineering colleges or in our earlier semesters, we do not deal with data structures which are as big as storing million records or umpteen number of variables. So then the use of pointer may look like a little bookish. It's just a technique that we are studying, how to pass the address and how to deal with pointers. But the real essence of using pointers is felt only when we work with a huge, larger amount of programs, which normally consume more time and would also consume more memory. It's actually duplication of memory. The array has to be stored in the memory in the main function. If you pass the entire array to the function also has to store the same array, and it's almost duplication. So why to do that? If you can only pass the address of the array, the function can refer to the address and the same memory location can be used to perform all the operations and you can get to the result. I think that's what we want to do. So please remember, the programs are going to get less complicated. Programs are going to consume less time of execution. And of course, the code will be more efficient. So the first example we started with was sending a fridge to a technician's shop and getting it repaired, and the trouble or the cumbersome turnaround we saw. And we saw that this technique, by only sending the reference or the address, works out in our favor in programming. I hope you've understood the why part of pointers. What exactly is a pointer? Very simply put, pointer is a variable that stores the address of another variable. Isn't it simple? Pointer is a variable which stores the address of another variable. A very small definition. So this is the definition of what is a pointer. Pointer is a variable that stores address of another variable. So let's declare a variable. What is this? This is a very typical statement. By this time you are used to seeing hundreds of statements like this. This is a declaration statement. A simple variable x, which is of data type integer, is being declared. What is the address of x? So many times we have declared variables, like for example int x. What are we expecting? And from whom are we expecting any action for this statement? This is a statement in programming. This is the instruction. Programmer is giving this instruction to whom? To the compiler. What does the compiler do in reaction to the statement? Think. We are telling the compiler, okay, look, we want to store an integer value somewhere in the memory. So kindly reserve a space in the memory and give the name of the space as x. In the statement, we are not actually very bothered about where in the memory the space was allocated for x. We are just telling the compiler, you please reserve a space for us in the memory. And the compiler obediently does that. Now, we are not much bothered about the address. Now, if we say x is equal to 5, this is an assignment statement. Who's writing it? The programmer is writing it. For whom am I writing this statement? For the compiler. And what action does the compiler take now on seeing this? That the value 5 has to be stored inside x. Think about this. What the compiler does after reading the statement, x is assigned 5, it first has to find out what is x. Has the x been declared previously? If so, then what is the address of x? It will have to fetch the address of x from somewhere called as a memory address register. If x has been declared previously, it will find the address, it will take 5, it will go to that address, store the value 5 at that address of x. So this terminology, address of x, is very important. See, there are two statements we have here. One is a declaration statement, one is an assignment statement. Simple variable x, simple integer variable. First we are declaring it, then we are telling the compiler put 5 into x. What the compiler has to do in the background, that also we have discussed. The compiler has to fetch the address of x from a memory address register. There are two steps. Compiler has to first find out where x is in the memory. After finding that out, it has to take 5 and go to that address and store 5. It's almost like two steps are involved in this statement. Let's see something else now. Let this be there. This is the new statement for us when we are studying pointers. This is the data type we are already aware of. It's an integer data type. You can see a star here which is prefixed to a variable. The name of the variable is p. Just happens to be p. It can be anything. It's just a variable. So we are saying int star p, asterisk p. What is p? Now p here is that special variable called as the pointer variable. And what does a pointer variable do? A pointer variable stores the address of another variable. We have to do that physically. When we say p is assigned address of x, we know that this operator, the AND operator, is the address of operator in C language. Address of the variable x we are storing inside p. That's how p gets initialized. And why do we do that? We do this because in our program henceforth now, we are never going to use x. Whenever x is required, we are going to reference it through the pointer that has been assigned the address of x. And why should we do that? We studied initially in our examples, we studied why a pointer generally is useful in programming. If we are able to access the values of variables not using the variable names but by using the variable addresses, then we are reaping some benefits of using pointers in our programming. We are speeding up execution, we are making it less complicated, we are making the code more efficient, We are saving time, and time is money. So thinking commercially in large programs, it is very obvious to see a huge usage of pointers. You won't see any professional big programs written in C language which do not have implementation of pointers. It's almost impossible. We have just started, so we are learning what is a pointer, how it is declared. So we are in the how. This is the declaration. Declare a pointer. And this initialize a pointer. So you may get simple questions like, what is a pointer? A simple one-line definition. How do we declare a pointer? By putting the prefix star to a variable name, it becomes a pointer variable. Otherwise how the compiler should understand what's a normal variable and what is a pointer variable? Normal variable does not have a prefix star. A pointer variable has a star prefix. You can have any name for the pointer variable, but a star is necessary. And of course, it has a data type. What does this data type mean actually? Now, P is storing the address of X. X is integer, hence P also should be declared as integer. That is compulsory in programming. If you are storing the address of a character variable in some pointer, that pointer variable has to be declared as character type. If you want that pointer to point to a floating point kind of a data, which is a float data, then that pointer has to be declared as a float type. So the pointer variable data type is that data type, the address of which variable it points to. So in this case, X is integer. P has been declared as a pointer variable which is of type integer. That is why we are able to store the address of X into P. If this was float, then this would not have been possible, because X is integer, address of an integer variable we cannot store in a float pointer. That's pretty much simple. So this is how we declare a pointer, this is how we initialize a pointer. You remember this statement. For taking input, we have a statement scanf, say %d, look at this statement. Simple statement to take an input from the keyboard. What are we doing? An integer kind of number coming from the keyboard has to be accepted and it has to be stored at the address of X. So this address concept we have been using even before we started studying pointers. Ampersand X means address of X. And in case you have already done this, int X, and also you have declared a pointer variable P, and then you said P stores the address of X. In case you have already done this, then this can be replaced by a statement scanf %d. Instead of ampersand X, we can simply write P. Because the address of X has been stored into P, so instead of this, we start using the pointer variable. and a simple output statement. Printf %d x. In case we have already assigned the address of x into p, this will be now replaced with this statement. Star p refers to the value which is stored inside the variable x. That's exactly called as dereferencing a pointer. The star symbol, when we use it along with the pointer variable, it's called as dereferencing the pointer variable. In other words, once this is done, in our program, whenever we want to say x, we can write star p, and whenever we want to write ampersand x, we can write p instead. And in our program, we are not going to use the name x or ampersand x at all. You declare the variable, take a pointer variable, put the address of that variable in the pointer variable. After this, x will not be seen anywhere in the program. That's the strategy that we are going to use. We have stored the address of x into a pointer variable p, and all through the program, maybe lakhs and lakhs of lines of code are there. We are going to use, or we are going to refer to x through its pointer variable and not by the name of x directly. That's the essence of how the implementation will be done. So we are discussing the how part of it. How to declare a pointer variable, how to store the address of a variable into the pointer variable, and then how to take input from the user using a pointer variable, how to display some output using a pointer variable. This is display of output. This is scanning the input. This is what you need to observe here. The next part, where the pointer variables are used. You remember in the initial part of my class, I told you that programs in real time would be using data structures which are huge. There, exactly there, when the main function or one of the functions is having to actually perform some operation on a big data structure, and it has to pass this data structure to a function. By using pointers, this will not be done anymore. You are not going to pass the entire data structure to the function. Now, by using pointers, you are going to pass the address of the data structure to the function. So notice this huge difference. Passing the huge data structure to the function, causing overhead of so many copy operations to be done, wasting time, compared with the new strategy using pointers, that is pass only the address of this data structure, so that the function which requires that address will take it, access that data structure in the memory at that location, perform the operation and finish the job. So that passing a huge data structure overhead is avoided. That is where we use a pointer. So basically we have addressed why do we use a pointer, how do we use a pointer, where exactly the pointer is going to be helpful for us. So normally questions asked would be, what is a pointer, how is it declared, how is it initialized? Let me show you one more way that a pointer can be initialized or memory could be allocated. Let's have this statement, a single statement. What are we doing here? Yes, we are declaring a pointer variable p which can point to an integer data. Have you understood this? Int star p. Star has to be put. Star has to be the prefix of any pointer variable which you are declaring. This name can be anything. In this case, it is p. Why is it integer? What does it mean? P is a pointer variable that can store the address of an integer variable. It cannot store the address of a float variable. If it was float variable, you could have declared it as float here. So they are little type specific. Be careful. After this statement, that is immediately after the declaration, is there any address in P? Think about this. I have just declared a pointer variable. I have not stored any address of any other variable up till now. So what is there in P? You can say that P is pointing to null. It doesn't store any address as of now. Next statement is a fairly new statement for you, which is the malloc statement. This is pronounced as malloc, memory allocation. Memory allocation, popularly called as malloc statement. It has got two arguments. This is the first one, and this is the second one. Basically boils down to one value. How much of a memory should be allocated? We have taken an example. This is just an example. Ten into size of int. We have already studied what is the size of operator. Size of, within brackets, any data type if you give. For example, you are using a 32-bit processor machine in which the size of integer is 4 bytes. So what does this result into? 4. And what is this? 10. So how much is this? 40. 40 what? 40 bytes. 40 bytes in memory, somewhere in the memory. Somewhere means definitely it has to start somewhere. Imagine this to be the memory. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 40. 40 bytes in the memory starting at some address. Memory is a continuous tape-like structure starting at some address. This is a starting address. from that starting address, 40 bytes have been allocated, and what is stored in P after the statement is executed, we understood what malloc does. Malloc is memory allocation. Size of int 4 bytes, you specified 10, 10 into 4, 40 bytes. So allocate 40 bytes in the memory, but what comes into P? What is assigned into P? Take a guess. Yes, you are right. The starting address of these 40 bytes, that is the address of the first byte in that set of 40 bytes, is assigned to P. This is a dynamic memory allocation statement and assignment of a starting address of a set of bytes. Now, it is not like the previous example where we took a variable physically, int x, and then we took int star p, and then we put address of x into p. That was just a single variable and we were able to do that. Here this 10 can be 100, this 100 could be 1000, depends on how much of information you want to store. Let's say you have to sum up 1000 numbers. That means there is a requirement of storing 1000 numbers in the memory. Obviously you can't use 1000 variables, right? So in this kind of a situation, the pointer variable is very, very useful. See, dynamically you can allot 1000 into size of int, which is 4 bytes. 4000 bytes somewhere in the memory will be allotted to you. Address of the first byte is there with you in P, and once you have anchored yourself somewhere in the memory at the starting point, it will be easy for you to traverse any amount of numbers, even till the 1000th number. How to do that? Yes, we are coming to that. Increment or decrement a pointer. It's another interesting concept. Very simply put, address of this first location, you can say that P points to the first number out of a set of 1000 into 4, that is 4000 bytes. P is pointing to the first byte in the set of 4000 bytes, and the address of the first byte is stored inside P. So look at this diagram here. I've actually used an arrow, and it is suggesting that P is pointing to the first byte out of the contiguous list of bytes that is allocated to the memory. Now when we say P plus 1, what happens? The pointer is removed from here and the pointer shifts to the next address. So when we increment a pointer, it is not like physically adding 1 to a number. No. This is pointer arithmetic. P is a pointer variable having an address. P plus 1 means the next address, not adding mathematically 1 to the, whatever address is stored in P. It's not like that. You can have a look here. P was initially pointing to the first number. You said P plus 1. Now it's pointing to the next number. So P plus plus, next number, P plus plus, next number, and so on. So that's how we can traverse the set of numbers by using this arithmetic on pointers. And similar is the vice versa, that is P minus minus. When we say P minus 1, what we are doing is we are coming to the previous address. So take a pointer, anchor it at one particular address, P++, means you are pointing to the next address, P++, next address, P++, next address, P minus minus, jump back one address, jump back one address. So if it's a set of integers, 4 bytes, jump, 4 bytes, jump. Or P minus minus, 4 bytes, this side jump, 4 bytes, this side jump. So that's how you are playing with the memory addresses by using some of this simple pointer arithmetic, plus plus or minus minus. Of course, P plus 1, P is assigned P plus 1 or P is assigned P minus 1. This statement you already know can be written like P plus plus. Or this statement you already know can be written as P minus minus. So with that illustration, it is very simple to understand what is P plus plus, P minus minus. So if you have 10 numbers, you are on the first number, you want to go to the 10th number, 10 times you need to do P plus plus. 10 times if you do P plus plus, you will be on the 10th number. And from the 10th number, if you want to go to the first number, 10 times you have to do P minus minus, you will traverse back. So back and forth traversal can be done by P plus plus, P minus minus. You could put it inside a for loop or something like that to process the set of numbers that you have. And mind you, we are doing it purely with a pointer here. The set of those 1000 numbers or 10 numbers are not a conventional array. Though the similarity between array and pointers, there's a lot of similarity is there, and it's almost a synonym like, so pointer is used wherever arrays are used. So instead of having an array, it's better that we dynamically allocate memory, use a pointer variable, traverse the numbers to and fro using that pointer arithmetic, always beneficial. Actually, when you are using an array, let me show you one more small thing with an array. What is this? Remember, this is an array declaration. Num is the name of the array. The size of the array is 10. We can store 10 integer numbers in this array. How does it look like in the memory? This is num of 0. This is num of 1, and so on. That's the last element, num of 9. And there is another variable which is called as num, which is created in the memory, which stores the address of the 0th index. When you declare an array like this, int num of 10, remember this happens in the memory. There are these 10 integers, so 4 bytes, so 40 bytes, 10 into 4 bytes, 4 bytes, 4 bytes, 4 bytes, so on. So there are 40 bytes. The first number is 4 bytes, called as num of 0. 0 is the index. That's how it is in arrays. The address of the num of 0, that means the first box, the first set of 4 bytes, the first byte, address of that is stored in another variable called as num. So the name of the array is actually a variable in the memory, and it stores the address of the first number in a set of numbers. Get this straight and a lot of things will look simpler and easier to you. This is one point I wanted to highlight. Whenever you declare an array, the name of the array itself is a variable that stores the address of. So invariably, when we are working with an array, internally the operations is happening through pointers only. Even if explicitly the programmer has not used a pointer, internally whatever you do with the array actually is happening through pointers. That's an important diagram. We have around another 5 minutes or so. So let's see a quick implementation of a small function that can be used to maybe swap values of two numbers. Function to swap values of two variables. So somewhere in my main function, I call a function called as swap a comma b. A and b are two variables. Say a is 5 and b is 10. Inside the main function, I'm declaring two variables, a and b, 5 and 10, and then I'm calling a function swap, passing the parameters a and b, and then I'm printing a and b. I'm expecting 10 and 5. This is the expectation. I have a equal to 5, b equal to 10. I am sending ab to a swap function. After the function executes, I am printing a and b. I am expecting that 10 would have come into a and 5 would have gone into b. When I print ab, I am expecting 10, 5, but this does not happen. It prints 5 and 10. And that's the puzzle of the day. I put 5 into A, 10 into B. I am sending A and B to a swap function. There is a swap function somewhere here. Let's say void swap int x comma int y begin int temp. Temp is assigned x, x is assigned y, and y is assigned temp. This is a function swap. Quite easy to understand. A and B you are passing. These are the actual parameters. Swap function is receiving the value of A and the value of B into x and y. Important to understand. Even if the name was A and B, this A would belong to the swap function. It will not be confused with the A of the main function. A of the main function is different. A of the swap function would be at a different memory location. If that is the case, normally the practice is to change the names. You are passing the value from A, you are receiving the value into X, you are passing the value from B, and receiving it into y. This is using a third variable, simple exchange kind of statements, after which you are expecting 10 to have come into A and 5 to have gone into B, but that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. You know why it doesn't happen? Because, let me give you a picture of the memory. Imagine this to be memory. This is A, this is B, and when you pass the values, this is called as pass by value. You're passing two simple variables A and B. The value of A and the value of B travels, received into X and Y. So if this was 5, this was 10 originally, and there the exchange happened. This got 10 and this got 5. After the swap function is over, this is the position of X and Y. Initially X would receive 5, Y would receive 10, but after the swap function, X would contain 10, Y would contain 5, but A and B remain the same. You are working with 4 addresses: A, B, X and Y. X and Y got changed. A and B remained A and B. That is what happens in pass by value. And instead of this, if you had not used the other two variables, and you would have used pointers passing address of A and address of B and received it in int star X and int star Y, then you know what you are trying to do? You are trying to exchange these values. 10 would come here, 5 would have gone here, and that shows how pointers can be used to swap two values of two variables. Let the operation happen at the address of the variables. Don't deal with the variable